Alrighty, I'm just saying. I'm hoping that we have like a super duper fabulous theme song coming in. But right now, you are tuned into I'm Just Saying, two Black women with opinions. My name is Janet Robinson Flint. I'm the executive director of Black Women for Wellness, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes my opinions are those of Black Women for Wellness, and sometimes they are not. My partner in crime is Ms. Adjoa Jones.
Well, good day wherever you are, in whatever area of the world you hang out, reside, you know, parlay in. Yes, as my compadre said, I am Adjoa Jones. I, in my day-to-day work, am a birth equity unit chief with LA County Department of Public Health for the African American Infant and Maternal Mortality Prevention Initiative. I'm also a board champion with Black Women for Wellness, a realtor, and so much other stuff going on at this time. But I am grateful to be here with you. Yeah, like Jan said, sometimes it's my opinion, sometimes it's a fact, sometimes it just is what it is. So welcome to
There it is. It
uh,
is what it is.
welcome to another episode of I'm Just Saying Two Black Women with Opinions.
Today, we have two additional Black women with opinions, and it is October. And for October, we are talking about breast health and breast health awareness. Black Women for Wellness had a program called Keep in Touch. I'm going to tell you how old this program is. Our organization is approaching, not quite there, but approaching 30 years old. And we were founded by six women. And one of the women, Akua Jitahadi, found a lump in her breast. And we did not know what it was. So she investigated what it was. Thankfully, it was not breast cancer. But in the meantime, we did all the research we could on breast cancer and detection of breast cancer. So at that point in time, yes, 30 years ago, there were several types of strategies that they recommended around breast health. One was doing a monthly breast self-exam. That meant dividing your breasts into a grid and just feeling very systematically to see if there were lumps or growth in your breast. Another strategy they used was mammography. Another, because Black women have, quote, dense, unquote, breasts, was ultrasound. And then they also recommended, if we wanted to go a little bit farther, an MRI to scan your breast. Not so these days, but we'll get to that. So we called our program Keep in Touch because we were teaching women how to do a breast self exam. And then how to show if they went for a clinical breast exam where a provider would palpate your breast, where to lead them to whatever it was that they found. We also recommended that partners do that palpation of the breast also, just because, sometimes that's what partners do. Okay. So that's Keep in Touch. That's where we started. Here we are almost 30 years later, and we have many a story to go along with breasts. Uh, Ms. Adjoa Jones has a story too.
So, thank you so much, Jan, for that introduction and history of BWW and the work. And it's interesting because Jan and I had met prior to the inception of BWW when we were both worked with the Black Infant Health Program, Great Beginnings for Black Babies and Inglewood Healthy Mothers and Babies. And interestingly enough, we were doing similar work, but kind of different. But overall, our goal was to get Black women into early prenatal care and make sure they had um, resources and were able to prevent preterm birth and low birth weight babies. And so at the time when we met, I was in my early 20s and I was happily the daughter of two amazing parents. I had my own child, I had my brothers, my sister. And upon giving my mom her a surprise 50th birthday celebration, I noticed there was something different about her. When I look back on those pictures, she wasn't her super vibrant self, but I didn't know what was going on. And at that time, we had the Black Infant Health Program had lost funding, so Jan nor I were there working anymore, and we had kind of lost touch, or so I thought. And then I happened to find out my mother had breast cancer by accident, overhearing the conversation. And at that point, it was a bit, and I actually did not know what was going on. I just saw that she had lost her hair, she had started to wear a wig, and I was like, what is going on? I know my mother was one that would cut off her hair at the drop of a hat, wear afro, did not care, but I knew something else was different. And I had to navigate over probably a month's time when I was just newly purchased my home because my mother was a realtor and she had encouraged me to get my license as well as I was planning to go to grad school. And instead, I had to pivot for, didn't have a month's time with my mom once we found out. And my mother passed from I don't really want to say it was actually breast cancer, but it was definitely the impact of the cancer, the chemotherapy that she regretted taking because it just took her quickly down. And she just did not feel fully heard by my then stepfather, husband, and other family members. And so, but I was the one that was able to care for her. And I think the worst part of it all was having to, even though I had my daughter who was 10, my baby brother who is 11, and um my first brother who was 20, as he lived out of state, and I did not know how I was going to tell him via phone that his mother was gone. I still get emotional about it today.
Mhm.
I think that was the worst part of it. Was it was a devastating loss, not just to me, but our entire community. But not being able to get my brother back home in time
Mhm.
because it happened so quickly. But that was when my mother died. That was the day that my entire life changed. And that was in November 96. So we're coming up on the anniversary. It'll be 29 years. But some months later, I got a call from Jan and said, hey, we're starting this organization and we're having a sister circle. And I'd like for you to come over. And I came over with my daughter that day. And I remember us being in a circle in the same building they're at now. We moved around a bit, but in Lamert Park. And I remember my daughter being in the circle and we were doing libations. And that's when I knew how integral it was to have family. Because my daughter was the only grandparent that, I mean, only grandchild that ever got to meet my mother and spend time with her. But my daughter said her libation at I think 10 or 11, and she was 11, and she said, um, I'm remembering my grandmother and her favorite scripture, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that encouraged me and motivated me, and I never left Black Women for Wellness after that.
Mhm.
And I thought it was important that I stick around because I knew Black women needed to get early detection. One of my mother's biggest point of contention is she did not want to have to go through Medi-Cal, and how she found out was as an independent contractor, she was going to get insurance and enroll in medical insurance. And my dad was very angry afterwards, her first husband, because he was like, had I known, I would have kept her on my insurance so that she would have got the treatment that she wanted. Every time she went to UCLA, they were like, no, it's going to cost you too much. We want you to go over here to County General. And she hated that that happened. So early detection. And so thank you for bearing with me as I share my story. But Black Women for Wellness probably was one of the other points besides God that helped save my life.
Thank you, Adjoa.
Thank you.
We have two, I don't know, folks, LaQuinta and Chelsea with us today, and they too have stories about dealing, battling, surviving, and thriving around breast cancer. Chelsea Carter is a marketing strategist, entrepreneur, and breast cancer survivor who has built her career at the intersection of sports, community, and culture. She is the co-founder of Verdict Marketing, a boutique agency that serves as a virtual CMO for brands, nonprofits, and athletes, helping them elevate their stories through strategy, partnerships, and experiential marketing. A proud member of the Black Women for Wellness communications team, Shilja brings her passion for equity and wellness into every space she enters, and amplifying voices and creating opportunities for impact. Would you share your story with us?
Yes. So like Jan said, I'm Chelsea Carter. So I am proud to serve on the communication teams, of course, for Black Women for Wellness. I think when we kind of got the notification that there was an open role, like I was like, this is perfect for myself as I've been like trying to get more into wellness and learning more how I can take care of my body after battling breast cancer. It's been super important for me. So, but I also was a very young breast cancer I battled breast cancer very young, and I was a breast cancer survivor very young as well. So, 2016, I was just 21. I was still in college, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I didn't know even the symptoms. I didn't feel a lump or anything, but I was a student leader on campus, and we were doing a breast cancer awareness um, kind of like campaign for our students and just like telling the different, symptoms that you should look for and like early detection as well. So I was like, I can't go and market and tell people to go get, go get checked out if I'm not getting checked out myself. So I decided to go. And after a couple days, they called me back and with some bad news. My grandfather, he remarried when I was very young, so I only knew that woman as my grandmother, but my biological grandmother she died at 38 of breast cancer, so a very aggressive breast cancer. Luckily enough, I was blessed enough to not have a very aggressive breast cancer, which is very, Black women usually, if they are diagnosed under 40, they have very aggressive breast cancers, but I was blessed enough not to have that. Mine was still stage one, some of stage two in my left breast, but um, yeah, did a lot of chemo. I had to take a year off of school, but I feel like how Adoja kind of said, like leaning in on my community, like my friends were constantly in the hospital, like they were leaving class, coming to the hospital to see me. So like my journey is not just like personal, it's like really also very deeply connected into the work that I do at Black Women for Wellness, but also just the work that I do in marketing as well. So I celebrate every milestone like it's my second birthday. Like so March 23rd, I'm like going out, I take a trip or something every year. So that's been super important with telling my story as well. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Chelsea. And we're extremely happy that you're here and that you survived. And listen, you look like more than a survivor on my end. I was like, who is this model that we have invited to the podcast? Uh, both of you all are looking pretty fierce, but thank you for that. And I thank you that you're a champion. I felt like we met through Arnidra at one point at some event or something.
Yeah,
But
I did the panel last year
yes.
for the
Mhm.
Hmm. I was
Raw.
like, yeah, she's been at both opera parties, which we're going to talk about
Mhm.
later in the
Yeah.
program. But so yes, you have been in the same room with her before.
Have with us as well LaQuinta Jones from Survivor to Purpose Driven Warrior. LaQuinta is a proud 52-year-old mother of two incredible sons. Over the past 25 years, she's built a multifaceted career as a human resource executive, real estate and mortgage broker, and financial advisor. More to talk about on that. She holds dual bachelor's degrees in finance and economics and an MBA in international business. MBA to MBA. It's a lot happening here. Realtor to realtor. She's dedicated her professional life to serving people, building businesses, and empowering women of color and girls through financial literacy. But of all the roles and titles she's held, the one that redefined her life forever is triple negative breast cancer survivor. There's so much more here to unpack, and I'm going to let her tell her journey, her story and journey. But that is the intro, and welcome, Miss LaQuinta Jones.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I must say that I started following Black Women for Wellness back in 2010, well before my cancer journey. And that stemmed from an aunt who was battling breast cancer at the time. And your organization helped me with so many different type of recipes and things that you guys would send out via email. So I've been following for about 15 years, and I'm very appreciative of the work that you do in the community, especially for Black women. And Chelsea, congratulations to you. You look absolutely beautiful. You don't look like anything you've been through, so I must give you congratulations on that. But yes, I am a triple negative breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed at 48 years old, and just doing your day-to-day life, you know, Black women, we wear so many hats. We're mothers, we're professional women, and we take care of everything and everyone, but we rarely find the time to pay attention to ourselves and take care of ourselves. So one day I was just on the phone with a cousin, and I'm just doing a breast check, which I never do. I had just had a mammogram 4 months before, and it was clear, but I felt this lump in my right breast. I didn't think too much of it because I was moving furniture the week prior with my son, and I did bump my breast, and I thought, oh, maybe it's just a bruise from that, but I'll pay attention to it. And if it doesn't go away, I'll, get it checked out. So as time grew, so did the lump, and it didn't go anywhere. Then I started to really get concerned. I reached out to my primary care physician, and I was like, hey, I found this lump. I need to come in and get it checked. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure, but I want to be sure. So I did go in, and he looked concerned, and he was like, okay, we're going to order another mammogram, but this time we're going to do an ultrasound with it. So went through the process, got the mammogram, got the ultrasound. It came back suspicious. So went in for an MRI, and my fears were confirmed that it was at that time breast cancer, but we didn't know what type of breast cancer it was at that time. So I had to go in and do a biopsy afterwards. So I went in, had the biopsy, and was told it was stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma, which is a very common type of breast cancer. So after going through several channels, trying to find an oncologist because you have to move quickly, I went to 3 different oncologists where my diagnoses were not confirmed, so to speak. I'll just say they weren't confirmed. I was just basically getting the runaround at Cedars, and I wasn't getting the proper treatment that you should get when you're going in with a diagnosis. There was no sense of urgency. So I basically at that point took my health into my own hands, and I found my own team of 3 that were outside of Cedars-Sinai. Come to find out that my diagnosis was a misdiagnosis, and it wasn't invasive ductal carcinoma. It was actually triple negative breast cancer. So during that time, from being diagnosed at the end of March of 2022 with stage 1, by the time I got all of my testing done, everything that I needed to have done to be properly diagnosed and treated, my cancer had grown from stage 1 to stage 4. So that's just to give you an idea of how aggressive triple negative breast cancer is. My tumor grew from 1 centimeter to 6 in 5 weeks. So with that being said, I underwent very aggressive chemotherapy treatment, 16 rounds every week, had a lumpectomy surgery there afterwards, and then after that, completed 25 rounds of radiation. So I'm just grateful that I'm here. They told me that I wouldn't see my 50th birthday, but I stand here before you at 52. And just having the advocacy and the support of community and having the support of the industry, being a human resources executive, I had access to Cigna, all of the healthcare big providers, the big names. I had access to brokers to help me navigate through that short period of time to get the treatment that I needed. So Yes, I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful for community. I stay connected with Black women from wellness, even through my own journey, just attending stuff anonymously, attending the Keep in Touch podcast to give me strength and motivation to keep going because it was a very tough battle. But I'm very grateful. And like Chelsea said, every day, every birthday that I'm allowed is a celebration for me. And it's also opportunity for me to share my story and to help women of color, especially any way that I possibly can, whether it's through a conversation or going with women to doctor's appointments that don't have support. Anything helps. Any small bit is not too small, in my opinion. And I believe that's why God kept me here for that reason. So thank you for having me and allowing me to share.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Oh my God, that is a lot of treatment.
Yes.
Very aggressive
Yes.
in that sense. So I think I've heard a couple of lessons from all of you all. One is that we need to pay attention to our bodies and what's going on. That we need a family, a community, a circle of support, whatever sister that is. That three, we have to have that advocate and that accompaniment to interact with the system, right? With doctors, with oncologists, with all the folks that we need on our healing journey, because we, as Black women, will need to demand the services that we need. We will need to negotiate those services that we need. I've learned that we don't have to be 40 to have to deal with breast cancer, right? Black Women for Wellness had many a fight about that age of initial screening, right? When they wanted to raise it from 40 to 50, and we were like, no, Black women often deal with breast cancer at a younger age and a much more aggressive breast cancer. Because to go from 1 to 6 centimeters in 5 weeks is huge. That's a huge growth. And I know now that there are a lot of programs that do screenings, but they don't do the diagnostic, right, in terms of tests and procedures. And that even now with screening, I think the last time I went, it was like a 4 month wait for screening. So I can't imagine what type of trial and tribulation, what type of stress and emotional trauma to know something is going on, but you gotta wait. You gotta wait your turn. You gotta wait in line while something is going on with your body. Mhm. And I also heard that Black women are not listened to. I heard that in Adjoa's story about her mom. I heard that in your story. And in Chelsea, it was like, I'm going to do this. So I'm sure at 21 years old, you had to do some serious and strenuous advocacy to get the services that you need because 21.
Yeah, I went to UK healthcare, so my university healthcare, and they were like, no. And I was like, okay, well, they told me no multiple times. They were like, we can do a mammogram, maybe like how you said, like in 6 months. And I was like, well, that's too long. Like, we're not even going to be in semester on campus at that time. So I actually had to go to a private hospital. So it's also added an extra thing in, as well as now I have medical debt because it's not under UK health insurance and it wasn't underneath my student um healthcare. So yeah, definitely was been an issue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what are your recommendations around breast health?
For me, my recommendation would be definitely check yourself. Stay on top of all of your screenings, but when it comes to breast health, because sometimes your tumor may be small enough where you can't actually feel the lump, or it may be undetected at a certain point. But just to pay attention to any type of changes in your breast, like, for example, dimpling or discharge fluid coming from your nipples or anything that looks unusual, just get it tested. I say it's just better to err on the side of safety and caution than to just overlook it and think that it's nothing, because we want it to be nothing, but we also want to be sure. And if it is something, to get it addressed as soon as possible, because early detection is the key to a good prognosis as opposed to a not so good prognosis. So just pay attention to any changes in your breast. And the one biggest myth that I heard, that breast cancer is painless. It just depends on the type of breast cancer and the stories that I've heard from different women that I've been able to meet along my journey. It wasn't any pain involved for me until the tumor started growing. Then it became very painful. But prior to that, I had no pains, no physical symptoms with my breast, no discharge. It was just that little lump that I felt. But I've spoken to other women where they did have pain, they did have discharge. So my greatest recommendation would be just to pay attention to any changes in your breast and in your body overall.
I think
And
that's a
don't
great
wait.
recommendation. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you
a
for
great
sharing that.
recommendation. Pay attention
Yeah.
to you.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. Were you going to say something, Chelsea?
Oh yeah, you can go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think just like as Black women and girls too, I think we were kind of conditioned to say that we have like high pain tolerances, or that's just how it is. Like I know Jan and I, we've spoken about periods and reproductive health, and my grandparents are just like, well, my grandmother's like, oh, our whole family's had bad periods. Like that's just how it's supposed to be. Like, so making sure that, like you said, like taking care of yourself, watching yourself. Like I'm a big component of, I'm taking pictures. Like I know I have dense breasts, and like I was told I was naturally had lumpy breasts, things like that. But like I know during my period they may get swollen or things like that. But sometimes just taking pictures and like making sure that I'm looking at myself every step of that, and then also tracking that as well. So like on my period now, like I'm making sure like, okay, if I'm in this type of phase, like my boobs are gonna look like this or things like that. So I think us being proactive and not just listening to what our ancestors or our grandparents or our parents have told us is important.
Yes.
Are
I think
there,
two things I'm gonna add real quick, and then I'm gonna tell y'all a little joke. One, I think one of the things that we can do as Black women is get the story from our mothers and our grandmothers and our ancestors. We don't listen to their stories, right? And it's not saying we should follow what they do. We should know their story,
Mhm.
right? We should know what runs in our family and how it runs, right? So if your grandmom was saying, "Oh, we had bad periods," well, what does that mean, right? But it could be that history of fibroids, right? Or it could be something else, right? So making sure we get the story from our ancestors is important. We don't necessarily have to listen to their advice, even though there are usually words of wisdom inside of that advice, right? But knowing their story is critical because we need to know what happens, what our family tendency is, right? What our family genetics are, that type of thing. And then the story I wanted to tell, I was, tracking my body and taking pictures. And I don't know, Adjoa, if you remember this, but I was taking a picture of my breast because I thought, oh, there's a mole growing here. Let me look at it. And I accidentally sent it out in a group, right? And I think Adjoa was part of the group. She said, what are you doing? Right? This was not a sexy shot at all, right? Because that's not what I was trying to do. It was like, I had on my bonnet and all this kind of stuff. So, and they were like, okay, you need to see about that. And checked on me to make sure that I checked on that. So, but I really did not mean to send the group chat that picture of the breast. Yep. Okay, Audra. Did she freeze? You still
no,
with us?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm done.
Oh, okay. I was like, is you done? Is you finished? No.
I'm done.
I mean, I think that happens. it's also like, I think because we're here in this nation, other places of the world, people are comfortable having their boobs on display. I mean, here we've had to, and I was listening to a brother, interestingly enough, that was saying on Instagram the other day, somebody shared it. He was like, let them boobs and that, he didn't say vagina. He had used another word. He was like, let it be free. You guys got it too, clustered up in those bras and panties that are made of the wrong material, right? So that are not healthy for us, that break down, and whether it's the plastics or it's not the linen, it's not the cotton. And so I even try to practice a little better with getting, it's not cute though. You want cute stuff, but I try to practice better getting cotton pajamas or a cotton, nightgown or underwear. But I have been the type that does feel like sometimes, free the body a little more and don't,
You
feel
can
like
free the body, but you don't have to take pictures of it and blast them. How about
I,
that?
I mean, you wanted us to make sure, you were safe, but it happens. But I was going to ask you, are there specific tests, besides the mammogram? Because there are things that go out that say like the mammogram isn't as great or as necessary. That like you said, you had a false
Diagnosis.
diagnosis, but you also had another issue. So it wasn't false go away, it was false, but you had to get more aggressive. And that's important, So tell me about the other tests, and then maybe tell me, did you either of you ever take somebody with you?
Yes, there are definitely a multitude of tests outside of screening. And my oncologist, which I can say this since we're, hopefully I can say this in a state platform since we're advocating for Black women. I had a Black oncologist and I had a Black radiologist that really understood not just the health dynamics that Black people face, not just Black women, but Black people face in the medical industry, but they had a better understanding of the DNA and the makeup of Black people overall, because we are essentially different. So blood tests, my oncologists were very heavy on blood tests, and there are different cancer tumor marker tests, genome tests, and DNA tests. So the way that I found out about my diagnosis being misdiagnosed as Cedars-Sinai, which is supposed to be one of the best institutions in our area, just treating Black women like Chelsea said, that our pain levels, we have to have tolerant pain levels. Our symptoms aren't that great. So basically, when I finally handpicked all three of my doctors, I went to my oncologist and he just ran a full body panel of blood tests, all type of cancer markers and genetic testing. That's how I found out that my tumor was triple negative, which means that it lacked the receptors that normal common breast cancers, estrogen, HER2, and progesterone positive cancers carry. I also did the DNA screening that tested me for, it's called Signatera. That's the actual name of the test. It's called Signatera, and it does a full genetic panel and cancer marker panel on your body. And not only will it detect breast cancer, it will detect any cancer anywhere in the body. And it will also give you a DNA makeup if there are tumors forming that a scan cannot pick up. So it's very important not just to, especially if you have a family history, not just getting, because I also found with triple negative breast cancers, I can no longer do mammogram screenings. I have to do MRIs. I have to. So mammograms are obsolete for me and any woman that has had triple negative breast cancer because it's so aggressive. And if you have dense breasts like I do, it's undetectable on a mammogram. So you have to get the MRIs, but definitely advocate for the blood test to support whatever type of screenings that you get. And they're called cancer tumor marker tests and genetic testing for any type of cancer. And it'll go back and search your whole DNA. So even if we don't get the history from our ancestors or our families, that test can tell you what's in your specific DNA and what type of mutated cells that you carry so you can address it.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
I believe I got the same one as well, but I had blood testing done as well. They said I had dense breasts as well, so I got ultrasounds. I had to get an MRI when it got closer to treatment as well. But I think you asked another question on like, did I bring anyone? So my story is kind of I shouldn't have, but I think I was kind of ashamed as well. And like I was raised by my grandparents. I have probably a lot of childhood trauma, but I didn't want to seem like a burden to even my friends. So for 23 days after I found out, I didn't tell anybody. Like it was not one soul that knew, probably my dog, but like even papers and things like that. I had roommates that were my best friends. I was making sure that they didn't find anything in my room. And I think that goes into it just being as a black woman too. Like we had to be strong. Like I was the strong friend. I was the one that was, a student leader. Like I didn't have time I couldn't let cancer stop what I was doing. So I didn't want to bring anyone else into that situation. But later on, I let people come visit me and things like that. But initially, no, none for the testing. But I do. So I have a younger cousin. And I tell her all the time, I was like, I'll go with you for your screenings, different things like that, just because we know that it runs in our family now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you
I
for
didn't
that.
answer that either. I did bring my mother and my sister initially.
Hmm.
And my significant other at the time would go with me and my mother-in-law. So I did have that support, but I learned, Chelsea, and I don't know how your experience was, you have to bring the right people that can be emotionally supportive because my mother and my sister, honestly, the negativity and the approach to the diagnosis was not good for my mental well-being.
Yeah.
So I had to have them stop going with me, and I started going alone and with my significant other for those reasons for me.
Well, I'm glad you said that because what was important in the situation with my mom is that at the time, my grandmother, who's now deceased, her mom was going through some health challenges. And so she was calling consistently. And I think she knew something was wrong with my mother. At the same time, my brother was living out of state and he was calling consistently over different things. And so I remember at one point my mother was like, I just need a break and I don't want to respond to, these particular questions or whatever from your grandmother. So my mother swore me to secrecy, especially with my grandmother and such. And honestly, afterwards, me and my grandmother fell out after my mom died because they came here, her and my uncle and aunt, and they pushed the envelope and wanted my mother to go to the hospital, which she did not want to go to because she was like, she had already heard what they had to say, and that wasn't where her mindset was. And I remember she fought. She wasn't saying anything before, but she fought to leave that, not to leave that house. And my stepfather and my uncle carried her out of there. And I remember she did not want to go. But I also remember some things that were said that were inappropriate, like to my brother, like some of it was the weight, trying to put the weight upon him, my stepfather said, but it wasn't. It was the fact that my mother, I remember her telling me when we drove somewhere together from an appointment or whatever, she said, I just wish people would get on the same page as me. I don't want, she said, I wish I had never told so many people because I don't want to hear what they think I should do. I
Mhm.
don't want to, I want them to believe like I believe. I want them to be on my page with and so that was the one thing, and she felt like she just should not have gone that route.
Yeah.
Um, and
I'm
so
gonna,
that was the hardest. Yeah, I would say that was.
yeah,
Hmm.
just jumping in here because time flies fast when you're
Yeah,
having this type of conversation.
yeah,
And wow, time is, and I still say take someone with you, but make it
mhm,
the right someone.
yeah,
Make it someone who's going to be a supportive, affirming person as
yeah.
opposed to someone that you're going to have to take care of,
Hmm.
and who will be more about them than about you and what you're going to. So for October, we are doing at least two events, and one is a bra party that's coming up on October 19th at the Skylinks Golf Course in Long Beach, if you happen to be in Southern California. And our bra party is actually lots of good fun. Lots
Always
of
a
good
good time.
fun.
I already
And
got
what
people.
we do is we have a panel discussion. We talk about breast health. We talk about the history of bras and why we wear them and what good or bad they do. We talk about the life cycle of the breast. But the fun part is that we bedazzle bras. And then we have a parade in our bedazzled bras. So you get all types of feathers or rhinestones or beads or shiny objects to create a bra. And then we put the bra on over our clothes, and we have like a great parade around a second line around the golf course. So that is coming up on October 19th. It's brunch time, so like 11 to 2 at Skylinks Golf Course. We also believe in that screening and prevention and that type of thing. So we're having another program on October 25th called Mammograms and Manicures, and that is at a church on Adams. If you call or email us or go to our website, www.bwwla.org, you will learn and be able to do an RSVP for our mammograms and manicures. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to get our nails done and we're going to get a mammography at the same time in the same place type of thing.
Well, I got some pink boots, so I'm excited. Yes, I
Okay.
picked up some pink
I'm
papers.
excited to bedazzle some bras. Because that part is just big fun to me. And we have some cone shape bras. You can bring your own bra. We have some bras too. But so you can really, have some avant-garde risque stuff this year in terms of the bra. And it's called Boobs and Bling. So if you look on our Instagram site, you'll see boobs and bling for our bra party, and you will also see manicures and mammography. So October 19th and October 25th with Black Women for Wellness. I want to thank you all for joining us and for sharing your story, for your honesty and sincerity and the intimacy of the story that you have shared with us. I really, we really appreciate it. And we look forward to helping you all celebrate each and every birthday and each and every milestone that are to come in great health and good friends and in community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored and I love Black Women for Wellness. I support every event that I can, and I will continue to do that. And I just appreciate the work that you do, Jan, and your entire team for the community overall.
Thank
You
you.
all for having us.
Thank you so much, Chelsea.
I was like, thank you all. I'm locked in with you all for at least the next year. But
For life,
yeah.
for life. Once you join in, you jumped in, you're pulled in, it's for life. So
Mhm.
we're so grateful for you all. We're so glad that you are on this side of the journey. We look to continue to uplift your story and those in your community. Please let us know how we can continue to be of support. And please let us know if you'd like to come back again and share and talk more.
Mhm.
Always on board. I would love to. Any way I can help. Volunteer, any opportunities, I am definitely there.
And we'll both
Don't you
be at the
know I got
bar.
your number, your email,
Yes,
and
you
your
do.
FaceTime? You will be volunteering with the
Yeah.
Fierce Auntie crew, if nothing else.
Okay.
Thank you for joining. I'm just
Thank
saying, two Black women
you.
with opinions.
And we will be back with more opinions in the very near future. Be on the lookout.
Okay.
Again, thanks everyone for tuning in and get checked. See your provider. Find a provider that you feel comfortable with and that will advocate with and for you. At the same time, treating and looking at ways to intervene, prevent, and treat.
And find your person.
Yeah. All right. Ashe
Alrighty.
and amen.
Ashe.